Yo, welcome back to Herbistry 420. I'm your host, 40. Today I'm going to show you how to remove excess chlorophyll from your alcohol-based tincture, or green dragon, right? Now, I got a lot of trim from a farm locally, and they want to do something with it. They want to use it to make an extract, right? So I made some ethanol extracts, or alcohol-based extracts, and made some tincture, and we found out when we evaporated all of the alcohol off that the tincture had the flavor and the aroma of chlorophyll in like so much, so it couldn't be used for smoke. So how do you refine that, right? How do you fix the color? Now, mind you, the reason that this is in this glass and not a jar to shake it is because this allowed me to measure. There's approximately 150 milliliters of tincture in here, so I put 1 teaspoon of activated charcoal in there. I did this on the previous take, but then I realized I missed something, so we're doing this again. 1 teaspoon of this. If I was using a cup, I would put 2 teaspoons of the activated charcoal. Why is this on a magnetic stir / hot plate? It's on the hot plate to raise the temperature of the tincture to around 80 degrees Fahrenheit. I've got a thermometer right here to double check. It's sitting at 85 degrees right now, and that's perfect. The elevated temperature is going to allow the carbon or the charcoal to absorb more of the chlorophyll, and it's just going to work better. I don't know the science behind it, guys. I took pieces of information from different websites, different forums, etc. to figure this out because it wasn't put well in one place, right? Or at least I couldn't find it anywhere. So this is on top of the magnetic hot plate. It's got 1 teaspoon of activated carbon or charcoal in it. I've mixed it up using a spoon, right? Don't mix it up by using a magnetic stir. For some reason, that doesn't work. I can't tell you how many times I've done this, how much material I've wasted trying to get this down, right? So, we're going to put this back on, and what we need to do now is take a Buchner funnel, a flask, and a hose and a vacuum pump, and this is what we're going to use to filter our medium, right? So this top piece is called a Buchner funnel. What a Buchner funnel is it allows you to connect a vacuum tube, right? And this is a vacuum tube right here, to the side of it. And what this vacuum tube is going to do is it's going to suck, obviously. There's a small tube in here that goes down. What it's doing is it's pulling and it's going to suck everything from up here. This is a fritted disc. A fritted disc is a filter in its own. Just like you would have a filter to filter out coffee particles or granules or whatever, that's what this does by default. It comes in different varieties, I think G1, G2, G3, and that's the pore size of the frit. Then you can get filter paper to drop in. Then you can get diatomaceous earth, and diatomaceous earth is going to be used as another filter cake for this filter. All of these different filter things inside your Buchner funnel, and I'm sorry, I don't know the science necessarily. Again, I took this knowledge and mishmashed it to get it to work, and it works. But I don't know the reasoning behind it. I'm sure some of you do. You can put it down in the comments, right? But the idea next here is that we want to prime this filter, and the way we prime it is by a little ethanol, right, or alcohol. This is the same alcohol I used to make the tincture. I'm just going to put a little bit on here, and I'm putting it to make sure that that filter disc that's inside is wet. And by having that filter disc wet, what's going to happen is it's going to make it stay down, right? And it's not staying down, but that's fine. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take some diatomaceous earth. How much diatomaceous earth should you put inside to create your filter cake? It depends on how much or how big this top receptacle is. This is 250 milliliters, so I'm going to put roughly like a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch of diatomaceous earth, which ends up being 2 tablespoons, right? And we're going to do this now. So I'm going to open this up. I'm going to grab 2 tablespoons of this, and I'm going to dump this just on top. Does it matter exactly how I dump it in? It does not, because the next step is to pour ethanol on top to create a slurry, and so this all comes down and flattens perfectly, right? Or more or less. So we're going to put this on top. We're going to take a little bit of ethanol here, and we're going to pour it on top, and we're going to stir it. And by pouring this ethanol on top and creating this slurry, when we turn the vacuum pump on, what's going to happen is it's going to pull out all of this alcohol, and it's going to make this filter cake one even like cake. And it's going to make it so that we can filter all of this charcoal out through the vacuum pump, right? I hope I'm making sense here, right? This Buchner funnel is designed, and I think I'm going to repeat myself right now, but this Buchner funnel is designed to do vacuum pump filtration. You're going to need a vacuum hose that you connect to the end right here, and there are vacuum pumps that are specific for this. This vacuum pump is not specific for using with a Buchner funnel or something like that. This vacuum pump is used for my art. I use this inside a vacuum chamber to remove bubbles from resin projects, right? However, and so the vacuum hose right here that comes out of this to connect to the vacuum chamber, it doesn't connect like this because this is not meant to be used with this. However, to use it with this, what I'm going to do is duct tape these two pieces together using some gaffer tape, and I'm just going to duct tape them together, and it does work. This is not ideal. If you do this, I am not warranting your pump. There is a possibility of some of this ethanol going through the line and contaminating the oil in your pump, and you could have a problem. It could seize and that kind of stuff. Keep that in mind. I am risking it, right? I haven't had a problem yet, but I'm just letting you know that is a possibility if you use a pump that is not made for this, right? I'm going to take some of this tape, and the way that I found that this works easiest is to put it on the table, and I don't know how well you're going to see this, but let's go to the other camera. I think you'll be able to see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of tape down first, and after I do that, I'll put both sides together, and it's going to take 3 pieces of tape to tape this together, right? So first piece of tape with a tubing in the middle right here. I'm going to then grab this other hose right here. I'm going to put it in the middle, and let's go to the other camera so you can see better, right? I'm going to try to line this up. And I'm going to start to fold over one side. You see it right here? And I've got this right here. It's not really connected, but it's connected with the tape, right? And I'm trying to make sure that it doesn't move and it creates a seal. And the reason I said 3 pieces of tape, after we put on this one main center piece of tape, I put on 2 pieces of tape on either side to make sure that it's not going to leak any air. Because this obviously is not creating a super tight, perfect seal. But if we add a couple more pieces of tape, it's going to create a seal. Again, is this ideal? No, but I didn't want to spend another $200 on another vacuum pump. I have too much crap anyway. So we are going the hacker route, and we are just using what we got, baby. And as you should, right? I'll say this. I recently got these filters that fit this fritted Buchner funnel. I was using coffee filters before, using a compass, cutting them out to be a perfect circle, etc. Now, mind you, this is, I forget the distance, but these filters are 70 millimeter, by the way. And of course, that size works with this size of Buchner funnel, right? So we're going to put on one more piece of tape to create the seal, and then this thing should be good to go. And we're going to test it, actually. Or not test it, we're going to use it right now as soon as I put this on. Another thing that you might find yourself doing is holding the connection where you taped it. It does make a better seal when you do that. On the back of this, there's an on switch. It's going to turn this on, and it's going to start sucking everything down fast. We're going to go to the other camera, and I think the reality is this is going to happen super fast because there is not a lot of resistance at the moment. So I'm going to turn it on, and we're going to watch in the bottom of the flask. You might notice that there's some yellow coloring coming down right now as this is pulling the vacuum. And that's probably because in the fritted disc, there was a little leftovers from the last time that I ran this, right? So I'm holding my hand here just to make sure that this is more of a seal. It's sucking everything down. This is going to take a few seconds, maybe up to a minute, and then we're going to move on to the next step. Let's go ahead and mix this up again. Every few minutes, right, you should be mixing this up. Also, you want to maintain a temperature of around between 80 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And you do not want to use a magnetic stir. That's very important. The order in which you do this stuff matters too, by the way. So I'm going to check the temperature of this again. We're at 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That's totally cool. I'm going to put it back on the hot plate, keeping it at that temperature. And again, I'm going to stir every few minutes until this is ready. This will be ready in like 10 minutes, right? The ethanol that's being pulled through right now, and it's on the bottom, we can either discard that, we can mix it with this, you know, it depends what you had run through this before, right? Because again, there is something in this liquid in the bottom because it was stuck in the filter disc. One thing that you're going to notice, right, is on the bottom of this fritted disc, let me see if I bring the YouTube or the GoPro closer. If you look on the bottom of this fritted disc, there's a bunch of activity. It's bubbling, doing all this crazy stuff. That's how you know it's still pulling. So I'm going to put this right here. We're going to look on the bottom. It looks like it's more or less done. I'm going to turn off the vacuum pump and we're good to go. Like I said. Now, by the way, after you've pulled vacuum at this point, you might need to wait a second because to take the top part off might be difficult for a second or two because there's still some vacuum pressure in the line, right? So if you notice that you're trying to pull this up or take it off so you can pour out this liquid, one of the issues is if there's still vacuum in the line or if there's still suction, that this might be difficult. Give it a second before you try to pull it up, right? I'm going to dump out this liquid into this receptacle right here. All right, just so that we can get rid of it and move on to the next step. Now, obviously, you could still use this ethanol. Anytime you're using the ethanol to prime your filter disc or to prime your diatomaceous earth, that liquid can be used for something else, either to reprime next time, etc. So save it. I'm going to put this off to the side. Now that we have this filter cake, it is also necessary that it's fully dry. But as we pull all that ethanol through, it should be dry at this point. The next question is how long was this activated charcoal or carbon sitting on the hot plate and how long have you stirred it? If it's been at least 10 minutes and you've stirred it at least 4 or 5 times, then you should be okay, right? So I'm going to put this here. Keep in mind, you can run this process more than once. We're going to run it through this filter one time. If we want to run it through again, what we will have to do is add another teaspoon of activated charcoal to the resulting liquid that comes through the funnel, and then we could run the process again. Each time you run the process, you risk losing up to 20% of your yield. That being said, why would you want to do this? If you want to refine your product because you have no other choice. I used to teach audio production, right? So people would make electronic music tracks, and in my class, what I told them is this. If you take a piece of shit and you put lipstick on it, it's still a piece of shit with lipstick. And what I meant by that is if you start with good material, it's going to be a lot easier to end with good material. But if you start with shitty material, you can put lipstick on it. It's still shitty material with lipstick, you know what I mean? So this is going to be shitty material with lipstick. It is what it is though. Because like I said, I'm starting with pulverized material. The cell walls are super damaged, which means a lot of chlorophyll, fats, and lipids seep out into the ethanol during the extraction. And that's because ethanol is an incredible extraction medium. However, it is non-biased. It doesn't just take the THC. It takes the fats, the lipids, the chlorophylls, again, depending on the cell walls of the material that was in there. Obviously, there's ways to ensure that you pull less chlorophyll, right? But that's not possible in my particular case, right? So, all right, this has been on there for a while. Let's stir it up one more time. I think we're probably good to go at this point. And we're going to run it one time. This should do more than one thing. I'm going to check the temperature real quick. Let's bump up the temperature of the hot plate. It was down to 75. I want it to be at 80 degrees, right? This filtration process does more than one thing. It removes the chlorophyll from your material as well as fats, lipids, and waxes. However, at the expense of yield, right? But in some scenarios, like this particular one, you don't have another option, right? Let's go ahead and check the temperature of this stuff. We're approximately 80 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to go ahead and put this inside of our Buchner funnel, and we're just going to pour it in. You can probably see, if you can see on the other camera, I hope you can, that this is super dark, super gunky. You'll also notice that a lot of this charcoal just sat in here. So I'm going to scoop it out, dump it in. There we go. And then I'm going to use this spoon to give it a swirl inside this glass, right? Now I'm going to go ahead and take this. I'm going to put it inside here, and we need to clean this because we might filter it again. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. I moved the vacuum pump off of the table just because we're going to switch to the GoPro, and I don't know how much it's going to shake. So let's go ahead and turn it on. And we should start to see, I'm grabbing where we put our tape just to cover it with my hand. And in a second, we should start to see this being sucked through. We should also see it to be a lighter color, and we should be missing all the chlorophyll, right? Maybe not all on the first pass, but let's see, right? Already we're seeing it being pulled through, and the resulting liquid looks a lot clearer, right? So this filtration process, it definitely works, but like I said, at the expense of your yield. So if you need to do it because you have too much chlorophyll in your tincture, then this process definitely works. I know it requires a bunch of different gear, but it is what it is, right? Is there a way you could skip some of this? You need to use the diatomaceous earth because the diatomaceous earth will make small micron pore sizes to filter through, even smaller than your filter paper and the fritted disc, right? Do you need activated charcoal? Absolutely. That's what's going to leak out the chlorophyll. Do you need a vacuum pump? You do. If you have one that you use for something else, you could technically use it for this. Is it going to be the same as the ones that are made specifically for this? For sure not. How much does this cost right here? A Buchner flask, funnel, etc., like less than $100 for sure, even depending on which ones you get. Of course, there's different models, different brands, some are nicer than others, etc. Now this stuff, this one is kind of cheap, right? The tube is cheap, the setup is cheap, my magnetic hot plate is cheap. You can get the bottom of the line stuff, it is still going to work for this. Now, I don't know how well you can see on this camera. Let me bring it closer to the GoPro. Look at the resulting liquid on the bottom. It definitely doesn't look green. It looks yellowish, amberish brown. So that's nice. One of the things we're going to be able to check is use the UV flashlight to check for chlorophyll when this is done. I'm going to stop talking. This is going to take a little while. However, on the GoPro, we'll speed this up in post. On the GoPro, you're going to see the liquid that's coming below the fritted disc. That's the color of the liquid that's going down. It's definitely a light yellow amber color. Fantastic, huh? All right, I went to go clean another one of these cups. I could have cleaned the ones I already had, but anyways, I cleaned a different one. So what are the tips or tricks that you could do once this finishes pulling most of it through? Is pour a little bit more ethanol or alcohol into it, because the reality is that fritted disc is going to have a little remnants, which I did pour some last time, but obviously not enough. So when we started it up this time through the filtration, you saw some of the ethanol get pulled through, right? So it's getting there, and one of the ways that you can tell, by the way, let's go ahead and take the GoPro, right? Let me unplug the power bank, bring the GoPro over, and when you look down in here, you can see that the filter medium doesn't look dry. When that activated charcoal or activated carbon is dry, it's going to start to crack, etc. It's going to look dry. So that's how we're going to know that it's getting closer to being done. Again, this process is not short. It's going to take maybe 10 minutes or something like that. I should have measured the time, but I did not. But anyways, it's going to take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that. At some point, we're going to put a little bit more ethanol to make sure we pull everything through. In fact, we might do that now, right? So it does look dry on the top. Let me grab the GoPro again, right? So now it looks dry on the top. Let's go ahead and put a little bit more ethanol in there. Let me put the camera back down. Let's plug it back in, actually. Because you know batteries be going down, baby. All right, so let's fix this, I think, up a little bit. And let's pour some in, right? So we're just pouring it a little bit to pull whatever excess is in there. It doesn't look as active now, but you'll notice as soon as we poured that, it didn't start pulling through right away. It takes a second for it to start pulling, right? Something else I'll note. Do not use isopropyl. For example, when we wet or primed the filter disc, we used ethanol, the same alcohol we used to make our tincture. Do not use isopropyl. If you put isopropyl in there, at any of these steps, you've now contaminated your tincture and it will not be safe for oral consumption for sure, and it will only be good for smoking and vaping if you totally purge it. But then if you totally purge it, you didn't have to use ethanol to begin with, right? So I would use ethanol because that's what we're using. And yeah, once we pour it in here, we're going to see the color change. We're also going to see, is there any chlorophyll in there? And we're going to check that with the UV flashlight, right? In the process of filming this video, I did several takes in the beginning to get the flow right, you know what I mean? And then, in the final take, I forgot to show you how to test for chlorophyll. All you need is a black light, right? This is a black light right here, and you need some tincture that has chlorophyll in it. I'm gonna come closer to the camera to show you, right? As I turn this on, you'll notice that the color of this tincture is like a dark red, a deep red. However, after filtering, you'll notice that we don't see any more dark red in here, right? So in the filtering process, we remove the chlorophyll, and now you know how to test for it, guys. Back to the video. I think it's looking good right there. I'm going to turn off the vacuum pump right now. We'll give it a second because remember, there's still vacuum in the line. So pulling this up right now, like, look, it's not going to come up right away, right? So give it a second. We'll let it relax. Should be relaxed, right? There we go. We'll pull it out. You heard that. It was because of the vacuum. I'm going to put this down right here so hopefully it doesn't leak too much. Let's grab a paper towel. All right, this coffee table, I think about painting this coffee table all the time. Like I have some ideas to do these cool inlays with resin and whatever, but the thing is I could do that, but what an undertaking. Plus, it's gonna take weeks to do that, and I don't have another coffee table to film with, right? Anyways, let's pour this in here, see what changed. The color may not have changed as much as we wanted, right? It's still quite dark. Let's look right here. Still quite dark, but let's put it in here and then let's use the UV flashlight to see if we got rid of the chlorophyll, because that's what I'm trying to do with this. I'm not so worried about the color changing in this because it's okay with me. It's more important for me that this doesn't have chlorophyll smell or flavor. So the smell definitely does not smell as much chlorophyll as it did before. Let's use the UV flashlight. Let's go to the other camera. I'm going to hold this right here. I'm going to put this on, and look at that. You don't see red, right? How amazing is that? This looks like a dark green brown when I shine the UV on it. But before, when we shine the UV on it, it looked like a dark burgundy red, right? That dark burgundy red signified chlorophyll in your tincture. Right now, no chlorophyll in the tincture. Also, through all this filtration, there's also no fats, lipids, waxes, etc. So that's what I was trying to do, remove the chlorophyll from the tincture because I plan to evaporate off the alcohol and then put it in a vacuum chamber to use the resulting extract in smoking and vaping, etc. And because it no longer has the flavor or the aroma of chlorophyll, it's going to work for my purposes. Of course, I would like this color lighter. If you know how to make it lighter, put it down in the comments. And some of you are going to say to run it through another pass. That doesn't work. I don't know if it's because of the potency of this tincture or if there's another reason. That being said, the chlorophyll's out, and that's what mattered to me. Guys, gals, everyone, this is a few months of me pulling my hair out. Imagine I was this glam rocker in the 80s with this monster hair. It's gone now. Anyways, I'm super happy that this technique works. I hope you guys learned something in this video. I'll have links to the stuff that I use down in the description. Remember, different things matter in this process. You need to wet your filter or prime your filter with a little bit of ethanol, a little bit of a high-proof alcohol. You need to make a slurry with the diatomaceous earth and the high-proof alcohol and then pull that through because that will create your filter cake. You need to use either a hot plate or something to bring the temperature of your tincture up to at least 80 degrees, somewhere between 80 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and then add your activated charcoal. Then mix it with a spoon over the course of the next 10 minutes at least 4 or 5 times. At that point, then put it on top of everything. Pull it through, and this is the result, right? You can run it more than once. If you decide to run it a second time, add some more activated charcoal. How much should you add? I add 1 teaspoon per cup. So a cup is 250 milliliters of tincture. Add 1 teaspoon of activated charcoal for it if you do that. Guys, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. Oh, I'm so happy that this works, and I finally have this technique down. Guys, gals, everybody, I hope you like this video. What am I doing? Karate for nobody. I'm fighting ninjas, baby. Anyways, guys, gals, everybody, I hope you like this video and you're having a fantastic weekend. Please like, share, subscribe. You know the deal, baby. Woo! Till next time, I'm out.